Now that we have completed our 1-point perspective notes, it's time to start applying these notes in our drawing and practice our drawing. So you also have a assignment worksheet, and this assignment worksheet is the other piece of paper that you're going to need as we practice our drawing. So you need a blank sheet of paper or your sketchbook, your assignment practice sheet, a ruler, and a pencil. And to quickly just talk about the ruler here, you'll notice that some of you have this beautiful metal straight edge. We need to keep that in place and make sure that we're not peeling it out. That is destruction of school property. So please make sure that you are not damaging this ruler. This is what keeps our ruler a nice straight edge so we can draw pretty straight lines. I also would prefer not to see the helicopter ruler, so that's sticking your pencil in here and swinging it around. What that does is that creates splinters in the wood here, and then eventually our rulers crack and break. So again, that's just an unnecessary thing that we need to be doing. So the only thing that I'm really good with is if you want to lightly swing your ruler, so long as you're not making a noise with it, that's fine by me. But otherwise, we should be using our ruler just as a ruler is intended to be used for, which is drawing straight lines. Okay, so let's get started with talking about 1-point perspective. In order to draw 1-point perspective, we have 5 steps that we need to complete. So the first step that we need to do is to draw the horizon line. So I'm going to write that out, and I am going to underline the term horizon line. The reason I'm going to underline horizon line is because it's one of our vocabulary terms. So that's my first step. I'm going to switch to my sketchbook paper here. I'm going to take my ruler, and we just learned that the horizon line is the line that is at eye level, or it's the line that connects the land to the sky. So I'm going to hold my ruler horizontally. I'm going to try and shoot for the middle of my paper. It's okay if it's a little higher or lower, but shoot for the middle. And now we're on to step 2. Step 2 is to draw the vanishing point. And I'm going to underline the word vanishing point because, again, that's one of our vocab terms. And in 1-point perspective, there is only one vanishing point. So with this, when I go to draw this one, I'm just going to put my vanishing point right in the center of my drawing. Now that I have this part of my drawing done, I'm going to just quickly label this note drawing. So I'm going to label over here with an arrow. This is my horizon line. And right in the middle here, instead of trying to write out the whole word vanishing point, I'm just going to write VP just to stand for vanishing point. Okay, so now that I have that written out, now we're on to step 3. So step 3 is to draw the shape. And shape is one of our elements of art, so I am going to underline that one just so that we can remember that that's a vocabulary term from another unit. So now, going back to my sketch notes here, I'm going to start by talking about a box that is coming directly out from the vanishing point. So if I have a box that's coming straight out from the vanishing point, what's going to happen here is if I pretend that this box is perfectly solid, then I am not going to see any of the sides other than the front panel. So in this case, I'm only going to see the shape, okay? But if I now pause and I just take a minute here to label a little bit more, I'm going to label up above my paper the north, down on the bottom the south, and then east and west. Okay, I'm also going to label northwest, okay, southwest, southeast, and northeast. And this will just help us as we're going through our examples here where we're working at in which quadrant, okay? So if we're talking about this box, and if I decide to shift this box up into the north quadrant, I'm going to start with step 3, which is drawing the shape. But now if I think about it in my head, or if you can imagine holding a box up, okay, when I hold the box up, I'm now going to be able to see the bottom side of the box. So I can see the front and the bottom if I move it up. If I move it down, I should be able to see the front side of the box and the top of the box. So in order to find the bottom part of this box that is in the north quadrant, my 4th step is to start drawing the receding lines. So that is step 4. Draw the receding lines. And again, I'm going to underline receding lines. That's one of our vocabulary terms. So receding lines, we've learned, are now lines that connect the shape back to the vanishing point. So I'm just going to number my corners here so that we can talk about them. And when I go to line up my ruler, I'm lining up my ruler to the vanishing point here. So if you want to put your pencil there and then line your ruler up, you can do it that way. And then I'm lining up the edges or the corners of the shape to that vanishing point spot. Once I have that lined up, now I can draw what's called a receding line. So here's my little rule. So long as the receding line does not directly enter the shape or immediately enter the shape that you originally drew, you can draw that receding line. So for example, with number 4 here, it does not immediately enter my shape that I've originally drawn, so I can draw that receding line. Okay? You'll notice that I only drew the receding line back so far. I'm saving some eraser time for myself. So if you want to just draw it without sending it all the way back to the vanishing point, then you don't have to erase as much when we get finished, okay? So now I'm on to corner 1, but when I look at corner 1 and I think about my rule, if it immediately enters the shape, okay, which this one does, I don't draw it because we're going to pretend that this box is totally solid. So if I have a solid front panel, I wouldn't be able to see that line. Same thing with corner 2. Okay, that one would also immediately enter the shape, so I don't need to draw that one. But corner 3 does not immediately enter the shape, so I can draw that receding line. Okay, so now we're on to step 5, and step 5 is to draw the parallel lines. And we know from math class that parallel lines are lines that forever go into space and they never touch. Okay? So for us, in order to find the bottom of the box here, I like to also think about it as like a copy and paste. Whatever is happening in the front side of your shape, we copy and paste that line to the back side of the box. This is a way that I think about it because when we get to more complex shapes, it makes more sense to think of it that way than to just think of it as a line. So this is what we're going to make here is a parallel line, and what that means is that I'm going to line up my ruler to what's happening in the front, and then I'm going to drag it down at the same angle. You can decide how far you want to drag it. If you drag it really, really far down, then it's going to look like a really long box. If you only drag it a little bit, then it'll be a really skinny, short box. And then the last step is to just erase your extra receding lines. So now we've created a box that is above the vanishing point, and we just talked about that if I move the box down below the vanishing point, instead of seeing the bottom, I'm going to see the top. So let's practice that one here real quick. So we start with step 3, which is to draw the shape, and we're going to draw the receding lines and then draw the parallel lines. The whole process of one-point perspective after you draw the horizon line and vanishing point is just repeating these 3 steps over and over and over again, steps 3 through 5. So let's do that. Step 3 is to draw the shape. I'm going to draw my box down here directly below the vanishing point in the south quadrant. You can use a ruler to draw your shapes if you would like, but just to save time, I'm going to move a little faster. I'm going to number my corners. You don't have to do this step, but if you would like, you can follow along with me and do it. It just makes it easier to talk about it. So when I look at my corners here, I can maybe already guess that corner 1, it does not immediately enter my shape. I'm laying it up from the corner to the vanishing point. Okay, so receding lines always connect the shape to the vanishing point. When I go to corner 2, this one also doesn't enter my shape, so I can do that one. Okay, but when I look at corner 4, it's always good to double check. That one immediately enters, and corner 3 also immediately enters my shape, so I'm not going to draw those two. Okay, step 5 is to draw the parallel lines. So let's draw those parallel lines. In this example, I'm copy and pasting what's happening on the front side of this form, and I'm going to just same angle, drag it to the top, or what I would actually probably call the back side of the box, okay, and close out my box. And then I'm going to erase any of my extra receding lines. All right, so if it's above or below, we're going to see 2 sides of the box. And actually, if we move it side to side, we're also going to see 2 sides of the box, because when I shift this box over, I'm going to see the front panel and the side. When I shift the box this way, I'm going to see the front panel and the side. So I'd like to move on past boxes, and let's talk about an oval, okay, something that's curvy. So I'm going to, up here in the northwest corner, draw an oval. Okay. And when you work with rounded edges, How you do that is you actually take your ruler and we've drawn the shape, that's step 3. Step 4 now is drawing the receding lines. I'm going to take my ruler and I like to line it up with my pencil again on the vanishing point, and I'm going to slide my ruler until it hits an edge, okay, of that oval here, which is right about there, and then I'm going to draw a receding line touching the edge. Now, I've seen students try and do it this way. They try and go from inside the shape to the out. Okay, that's really hard to do. Instead, it's much easier just to take your ruler, flip it, and slide it so that, boom, that's where it hits the edge of my shape. And then I'm going to draw my receding line back. Now we're on to step 5, which is parallel lines, right? So when we think of parallel lines, this is why I like to think of it as like a copy and a paste. Because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy what's happening in the front side of the shape, and I'm going to paste it on the back side. So I'm going to take this line, this curvature, and paste it on the back side so that it repeats and creates the back side of what's now a form, because it looks more 3D. Okay, then I'm going to erase my receding lines. And that's how you would do a curvy edge. Okay. I told you that we were finished with boxes, but let's just do one quick example. If I move this box actually up into the northeast quadrant, okay, now we're actually going to see 3 sides of the box. And the sides that we're going to see is we're going to see the front panel. We're obviously going to see the bottom because we know that it's above our eye level, but we're also going to see the side. So let's talk about how to do that box. So again, starting with step 3, I am going to draw the shape, which is the box or the square. Okay, and if I label these just to make it easy, okay, we could probably guess that corners 2 and 4 are going to have receding lines to them, right? So let's do corner 4 and corner 2. All right, and now let's use the rule. So when I look at corner 3, I do not immediately enter my shape, so I can draw corner 3. But if I look at corner 1, that one would immediately enter my shape, so I do not need to draw that one, because we're trying to make this, again, a solid form or a solid box. Okay, step 5 is draw the parallel lines. So now to draw our parallel lines, you guys, we've been doing this one. So to find the bottom part of the box, I need to line up what's happening on the bottom part of the box on the front panel and drag it down and draw my parallel line. So that creates that one. And now what I'm going to do is for this side panel, my parallel line now goes vertically. And again, if you want to think of it like copy and paste, this line, I'm going to copy it and paste it, but where you have to paste it for it to make sense is it has to line up with this corner wherever you stopped for this parallel line. They should match and meet up to form the corner of the box. This is really, really important right there. Okay? Then you can erase any of your receding lines. Now class, you can absolutely do this line first and then this line. It doesn't matter which order you do those in. They just need to make sure that you connect them at the corner there. Okay, so now we can see the front side, bottom side, and the side of this box. Okay, let's make it a little bit more tricky. Our last example that we're going to do is we're going to combine an organic blobby shape with kind of a more geometric looking shape. So in order to do this, I'm going to take a shape here and I'm just going to draw it out. So I'm going to start with maybe kind of just a little loop-de-loo here, and maybe one more. And then kind of bring it down and sharpen it up. Add a couple little sharp spots, and then maybe just kind of round it out one more time. You can draw your own organic shape, that's fine by me, or you can copy mine. Either one is fine, but it should have both rounded and hard edges so that we can do both examples in one. Okay, so when we work with our hard edges, we know that we can just go from the corners, and so long as it doesn't enter the shape, we can draw those back. So this one looks good. Okay, this one out here looks like I could line that one up and draw that receding line. And this one back here, I probably for sure could do this one because it doesn't enter the shape. But here's something cool. Right back here, if I want to make it look like it's overlapping, I can draw it all the way to touching the front part of the shape. And now I've created what's called like an overlap, or creating some depth to this form. Okay. Now we know as we saw with our oval, for the rounded sides, we just need to find the edge. So I'm going to go through here And oh, there's an edge right there. Make sure it's lined up with your vanishing point. That's always the hardest part, right? There's one, there's an edge. Okay. There's one right in the back here too. And just to double check, so now I can do this process again. If I want to bring it all the way down to touch this front panel, then I'm creating a thickness, a specific thickness to my form that I'm building. I'm just going to double check though, any spot that there's kind of a crease, like right here, okay, that immediately enters the shape, so I wouldn't necessarily draw that one. Okay, this one as well would immediately enter the shape. If I look at the inside sections too, like this is a rounded spot, that goes through the middle, that goes through my shape. Okay, this one as well, when I'm kind of just eyeballing it, that one would go through, and so would that one. So I can also eyeball it. You don't necessarily always have to use a ruler, but if you're worried about it or nervous or you're not sure or this is kind of challenging for you, I would always use the ruler. Okay. Well, now we get into step 5, which is the parallel lines. Okay, this thing's probably going to have a lot of fun parallel lines, right? So if we recognize this thickness that we've already created on these back panels, we need to have the same thickness going through our entire form. So what that means is, again, we're just doing like that copy and paste rule. Here is the front side of the shape, and the back side of the shape has to be the same for this panel. So in order to do that, I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to slide it out at the same angle, and I'm going to make it kind of thick, okay, because down here, these are fairly thick pieces of my form. Okay. Here on this panel, to finish this one out, what I need to do is create and copy and paste this curvature line. So again, I have to keep it pretty thick, okay, and then curve it out. So I need to create the same thickness here. And in this example, I actually was able to line it up perfectly with my receding line. That doesn't always happen. That just is kind of a coincidence there. Make sure that you're not just going to where your receding line ends. Okay, then you'll draw it incorrectly if you do it that way. So now copy and pasting, here's what's happening in the front. So I'm just kind of copy and pasting that curvature and hiding it and tucking it underneath. And now I have finished my form. So again, it's just the same 3 steps over and over again. After you draw the horizon line and the vanishing point, draw the shape, draw the receding lines, and draw the parallel lines. So in order to do your assignment today, you'll notice that step 3 is actually already done for you. All of the shapes are drawn. So you just need to finish doing steps 4 and 5 for every single one of these shapes. Okay? And that is how you're going to complete your 1-point perspective assignment.